Hey guys, my name is Jeff. Welcome to the channel. Today I am going to tell you about 5 slick ETFs for speed and safety. Now I decided to make this video because there are so many ETF videos out there, and what I've noticed is they all feature the same ETFs. Which ones should you buy? And it's always like QQQ, VOO, VTI. I understand, I get it. They're all very well known. They're easy to remember. I mean, come on, letters like QQQ. I mean, anybody can remember that. So what I want to do is I want to share 5 ETFs with you. You have probably heard of at least 1 or 2 of them, but probably have not heard of all of them. So the first ETF I want to tell you about today is SCHD. Now this is a Schwab ETF, and SCHD is the Schwab US Dividend Equity ETF. So this particular ETF buys a collection of stocks based in the US that pay dividends. So these companies tend to have been around for a long time. They are stable, they're profitable companies, and they earn enough money, they have enough profits that they take a part of those profits and then they give them to you, they send them to your account as a dividend payment. And you know, these tend to be a little bit more stable companies. They may not be as fast growing as some of the, you know, hype stocks or tech stocks or growth stocks, but these are going to be companies that give you money periodically through their dividends. And like I said, they tend to be pretty stable. The total return so far in 2022 is negative 7.4%. And this compares real favorably to the S&P 500 or the Vanguard, say, total stock market index, which are down about 14 to 15% so far this year. So for those of you who are interested in either diversifying away into some other kinds of stocks than what you have in your current mutual funds or ETFs, SCHD might make a lot of sense. ETF number 2 is VGT, which is the Vanguard Information Technology ETF. And these stocks are going to be tech stocks. Information technology is just a fancy word for tech. VGT. These are companies like Apple, Microsoft, Nvidia, Visa, and MasterCard. If you invest in an ETF like this, you're not going to get a lot of the other kinds of companies. For example, healthcare companies, or energy companies, or restaurants and hotels, and other kinds of parts of the economy where you might get a little bit of cushioning in stock market volatility, stock market crashes, but you'll have a lot of the upside that goes along with owning tech stocks. All right, so the third ETF I want to tell you guys about is VHT. And VHT is the Vanguard Healthcare ETF. So this one, as you can imagine, invests only in companies involved in the healthcare industry, pharmaceutical companies, and companies like United Health Group, Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, Eli Lilly, and AbbVie, to name just a few of them. These companies in general, in my experience, tend to be a little bit more stable in terms of price fluctuation than some of the tech stocks out there. And I think this is mainly because the need for pharmaceuticals, the need for drugs, and the need for healthcare is kind of a constant in our culture. And so an investor in stocks like these is going to probably endure a little bit less volatility and a little bit more overall stability. But if you're looking for hyper fast growth in your portfolio or a lot of tech stocks, you're not going to find it in VHT. Also, just as a data point here, this particular ETF is negative 7.85% year to date in 2022, and this is compared to about negative 15 for the overall stock market, like in VTI, the total stock market index. So this has fallen a lot less than the overall stock market so far, and that's just something you should know about. One other part of the healthcare or the drug investment world is biotech stocks, and they are a completely different thing from these healthcare stocks. The healthcare that you'll find in VHT tend to be larger companies, much better established. They have stable streams of earnings. These are companies that have been around a lot of times for 30, 50, even 100 years. Companies like Johnson & Johnson, Pfizer, and Eli Lilly have long histories. The biotech part, although they do make vaccines and they do make pharmaceutical products and drugs, these tend to be much smaller companies, very high risk reward. While some of them do very well, a lot of them just crash and burn. So I would be aware of the presence of ETFs like XBI, which is a biotech ETF. You might want to check it out. However, that's going to be a lot more volatile, and that's the type of ETF I would tend to stay away from or only invest a small amount in. But something like VHT, I think, would have a place in the portfolio of a long-term investor who just wanted to diversify their investments a little bit towards something that's going to maybe be more stable and offer a little bit more of a ballast in a volatile investing environment. All right, well, now the number 4 ETF that I want to talk to you about is VOO. You didn't think I would actually finish this video without talking about VOO. This is kind of the classic. This is like the Coca-Cola, it's like the apple pie or the pizza pie or whatever is American to you. This particular ETF invests only in companies based in the US, and it invests only in the largest. And you know, this is a nicely diversified ETF. It doesn't try to do anything fancy. It's not trying to pick the next winning sector, whether that's, you know, tech or energy or healthcare. It just invests in all of them, all of the different sectors, and doesn't claim to know which one's going to do well this month or which one's going to have the highest return this year. But by investing a little bit in everything, that's the kind of exposure you get here. I like this ETF a lot. I own shares in it. Another one that I would think of kind of a quote honorable mention to, you know, would be QQQ, just because all of the stocks in that portfolio tend to be the powerful drivers of our economy. I do like a lot of the stocks in QQQ, but they are all in VOO, and what you wind up doing is paying a much higher expense ratio for QQQ. It's 0.20. The expense ratio for VOO is 0.03. So you're paying more than 6 times. You're almost paying 7 times as much money in expenses to QQQ just to hold these, you know, growth stocks, compared to how cheap it is to just own a broad collection. So that is why VOO makes my list, but QQQ does not. I think it's a fantastic ETF. Like I said, I personally own shares. And that brings us to number 5. Number 5 in my list, least but not last, as they say, is VTI. And as you may know, if you've been following my channel this year, VTI is the ETF that I buy shares in every month. On the first of the month, I put about $1,000 into VTI. It's not that it's necessarily better than any of the other funds that I've mentioned or any of the other ETFs out there, but I just like owning those 500 large companies that you have in VOO. But I really like to own the mid caps and the small caps, because my own personal belief is that over long periods of time, and this has been documented, say over the last 20 years, from 2002 to 2022, the Vanguard Total Stock Market Index ETF would have done better than the large caps. Now, the Total Index ETF did not exist 20 years ago, but its counterpart, which is an index fund that invests in the total stock market, has returned slightly more than the S&P 500. So there you have it. Those were my 5 slick ETFs for speed and safety. And you might say, what is it about these 5 that is necessarily speed or safety or slick about them? And what I would say is they're all very clear in what they offer to you as an investor. This one is a diversified dividend-bearing stocks. This one here invests in tech stocks, healthcare, the 500 largest, and the total stock market. So I hope this has been useful to you. Hope that you liked it. If you did, please give a thumbs up. And if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to this channel, and then you will get a notification whenever I make a new video like this. I'm real glad that you're here, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video.